Could you get everyone's attention? Just for, get things going here. I know everybody's got food in front of them, and appreciate everybody showing up this morning. Excited to be here, right? So it's great space that Mr. Kenny's put together. Appreciate you hosting us today. So we could have a round of applause maybe. So if you haven't figured it out, there's several of us on the executive board of the chamber, and it's kind of a prerequisite that you have to kind of be light on top. Mr. McNew, the past chairman, Mr. Buds, myself, Mr. Elliott. So we, our meetings are exciting. A lot of reflections, so that's all you're getting from me. That's all I get. So, but no, for those that I don't know, my name is Eric Bennett with the Management Smith Group. I'm one of our managing principals with our Monroe office, and then obviously all the other offices we have throughout Michigan and Ohio. So excited to be here. I am on the executive board with the chamber, and Michelle asked me to step in today and help out with our luncheon and with introductions and having the congressman here. So with that, we try to start out every meeting. Matt Buds would yell at me if we didn't start out every meeting. But with the mission statement of the chamber, I find it critically important nowadays. People looking at where your roots are, looking at what reason you're doing what you're doing, why we're here, where we're going. I think it's very important in the day and age that we're in. So, but the mission statement is to promote the growth and success of businesses here in Monroe County. So through fostering innovation and collaboration, we've had a gentle rollout of our partnership and investor approach through the chamber. Our timing was absolutely terrible, so because it started January of last year, and Dr. McNew and several of us kind of worked through that over the last year. But so if Michelle and Steve haven't been in touch with you, they will be soon. As we're looking at partnership packages and not just being a membership entity. So hoping to bring a little more value to each of us, especially in the times now, be a resource to go through. If you need something on within your community, you need something within your business, please reach out. Right now the relationships mean a lot. So so I introduced myself. I introduced Dr. McNew from the ISD. He's also he's the outgoing chairman of the board for the Chamber of Commerce. So thank you, Mr. McNew. Drew Lindecker's here with me as well. He's on the board within the chamber, and I don't think we don't have any other more. Yeah, no other board members. So, but I appreciate all their help, especially here over the last 15 months. So get rolling out the new chamber investment and partnership packages, and then obviously everything that's been on top of mind for the rest of us. So a couple upcoming events we've got just to make everybody aware of. Most of our events are going to be like this. We're going to try to maximize how many individuals we can have, and then try to bring it virtual. So you are all on camera, so make sure be cognizant of that. But we've got upcoming on the 17th is our Chamber Book Club. It's reviewing the Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action by Simon Sinek. That's been picking up a little bit of steam, so if you're looking for good reads or good conversation, looking for new, fresh ideas, that's a good place to go. Thursday, March 25th, we are holding our annual Chamber of Commerce, our annual meeting and open house. That's at our new office location, which is over at I think it's the Battlefield building. Is that what they're calling it right now? So, but at the National Battlefield there, we are located in that building now, so very excited to be there. And then Thursday, April 1st, we've got our Back to Basics series. This was something we started to try to give businesses the opportunity to maybe reconnect on some of the items that are important right now in this time. And as we're looking at all the businesses that are being impacted in different ways, trying to give them an avenue to have some more resources. So that's going to be on digital marketing, which is extremely important right now. But a couple other things, April 19th, we've got our state reps legislative luncheon, so Representative Bellino and Representative Cummins will be there. I think we've got they're working on the location still. And then Friday, May 21st is Senator Zorn. So, two other things, and I'm done with the calendar because we're almost in June and July here. But June 11th, we are hosting the Chamber Annual Golf Outing. So, if you have interest in that, please reach out to Steve, and he can get you set up. We're excited to do that outdoor event. Maybe a little bit different, but it'll be a great event. Last year we put it on, not knowing what we were doing, had a great turnout in like 10 days of registration. So hope to see everybody there. And then the annual takeout right now is scheduled for the 14th. So want to thank Derek Arnold in the back corner with River Racing Security and Technology filming our events. It's been great. The Chamber wasn't necessarily a virtual platform prior to COVID. We are now. We've worked through it and trying to make these meetings available for everyone that can't be here, or if we're maximized on our capacity, we've got other options, either live or recorded. So just a quick second. Obviously, I mentioned Representative Bellino, Supervisor Peroni, Supervisor Barron, Supervisor Van Washenova. I think that's all I got as far as elected officials, right? But just a quick round of applause. They've had a tough go here. For a couple months, but it's all right. So with that, we do have a few sponsors today for this event. So Allen Chevrolet, DTE, First Merchants Bank, and the Manikin Smith Group. I think we've got a video from Molly over at DTE, so Steve, if you're, I don't know where it's going, but.
It's going to be on these
on the
TVs.
Okay, so.
Hi, this is Molly Lumpert, Regional Manager for DTE Energy, and it's great to be here today. I want to send a big thank you to Michelle Dugan and staff for helping me put on today's legislative session. I also want to recognize Congressman Wahlberg for coming out and meeting with the constituents today, area businesses. He's always accessible and here to support all of his constituents. So thank you, Congressman, and thank you to his field representative, Dustin Krasny, as well. What's new with DTE? Well, as of 2020, last year's investments of about $1 billion in all of our infrastructure, we've seen about a 25% increase in electric reliability. So we're really happy about that. Also, last year's numbers just came in with respect to the Pure Michigan spend, and that's where we support area businesses here in Michigan and help grow jobs. And so last year's investment was $2.2 billion, and that follows a track of 11 years, about a $13 billion investment we've made here in Michigan. Very excited, and we hope that's created thousands of jobs here in Michigan as well. So with all of that, thank you for allowing us to sponsor today, and we'll look forward to a great program.
Just a round of applause for DTE. Hopefully we're watching here later today. So Tom Myers with First Merchants Bank.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
Gosh, I couldn't help but think of that video. There's a lot of videos of me floating around from my younger days that I don't watch them in public. So. Again, First Merchants, glad to be here. It's nice to see all these friendly faces in person, and glad to be a sponsor again. Looking forward to the Congressman's comments. I'm curious as to what he's going to say, because there's nothing interesting going on in Washington these days. So again, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And I don't see anyone from Allen Chevrolet, but we'd definitely like to thank them. Without the sponsorships, you know, putting this together it's a great opportunity. So, and then I have to say a couple things from Manikin Smith's perspective. We really appreciate the legislative updates. Congressman making time to come home here in light of everything else that's going on. So, a lot of things on the agenda right now. I'm sure we have a lot of questions. I think we got a room here where we can ask a few questions later on. But you know, from Manikin Smith's perspective, we're always excited to be here. So, with that, I'm through page 2 of the agenda Michelle gave me, so I've learned that I need to not only get nearsighted vision, but farsighted too, so. Congressman, I'm not real good at reading notes, so I just wanted to take a second, and again, thank you for being here. I think sometimes we forget the reach that maybe we have and the availability that we have, working with Dustin and others, but, you know, looking at all the, I've actually, the counties this morning, Branch, Eaton, Hillsdale, Jackson, Lenawee, and Monroe, parts of Washington, I mean, that's a big footprint to cover, you know, and understanding everyone's needs and desires and hopes, and, you know, so balancing that is, I can't even imagine, but, you know, we've had the opportunity of having you here before, and look forward to having you here again, and, you know, the update you're able to give us. So with that, Congressman Walper, thank you. Yeah, that's good.
This is good right here.
Yep.
Can you hear me? I fall and I can't get up. We get all these expressions going on during this COVID. You know, can you hear me now? It's good to see your faces. I'm hoping that very soon we'll be back to when we say smile, you can actually see the smile, as opposed to seeing the eyes. We're getting a bit used to that. But I think it's time that America charts the course for being a land of people who are brave, who are venturesome, who are willing to step up and move forward and not be drawn back any further than we've gone right now. I want to applaud this chamber for having the audacity to do something live and in person today. And Rich Kenny, thank you for all of the battle you did just to keep this place open. You've got more sand available to you right now and to the people than we have on Lake Erie. But you've done a great job being a focal point for the area. Spent quite a few sessions here with Rich talking about how in the world a bowling alley within spitting distance of the Toledo border, with bowling alleys open down there and drawing leagues that direction, how in the world you could keep it alive here. It was a very poignant illustration that ideas have consequences and leadership matters, and that people given good choices, good statistics, good science, can make fairly good decisions on their own and move forward. So we're glad this is an example we can have this meeting here today, having gone through all sorts of challenges, unfair competition, not because of the businesses, but because of what government did at various times, and yet still remain viable and moving forward. And then buying another bowling alley during this period of time. Where's your brain?
I get asked that question a lot.
That's what an entrepreneur is, and that's what I appreciate about chambers. I've got my concerns about the National American Chamber of Commerce. They seem to have shifted a little bit. You got to draw them back in as much as you can. I think with what passed just this last week, $1.9 trillion of additional funding, 9% of that went to COVID, healthcare relief issues. The rest of it went all sorts of other places. And you'll see some of that back here in Michigan, and it will be used, even though $1 trillion of what we'd already sent to the almost $4 trillion of COVID relief package, all of that done in a bipartisan fashion. CARES Act, PPP, all the rest. Still $1 trillion of that had not been used yet, including a significant amount in this state for schools, for school reopening purposes. The good doctor here would like to have some of those dollars have been freed more rapidly and being used in sources of getting everything dealt with as a result of COVID. But that's what we contend with. Now my staff put together some talking points for me today. I think they do this, and this isn't Dustin. I think Dustin would be put together, well, not quite as blatant as I want to speak at times. They put this to control me, using nice words about the vaccine rollout, the school reopening, the American Rescue Plan, not being quite as rabid in my comments about some of these issues or not. So we'll forget about that. And, we'll use some of them. They would want me to talk about some of the things that might be of interest to you. Piece of legislation that I've sponsored or co-sponsored. So we'll do that. Under the title of Walford Legislative Update. Senior staffs, Lisa Villant, Rochester, wonderful Democrat friend of mine from Delaware, has sponsored this with me again, looking at helping our seniors from having the scams that come across the table, looking at ways where we can restructure, and I think it benefits all of us, because while we found out that the use of the technology we have, social streaming activities, the internet is a wonderful thing, but it can be abused. And then the phone lines as well that come in with all sorts of opportunity today. So we have that bill introduced again, looking at how we improve the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, in their efforts to get at those scams. Skilled telecom workforce bill, Representative Clark from New York and I are working together on this. We both serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee as well as on the Telecom Subcommittee. Looking at how we can expand the training, and this is where we have community colleges and ISDs, and tech centers and the like that are getting people up to speed for today's skills that we need. We have people to climb poles, but we don't have people necessarily prepared to climb 1,500, 2,000 feet in the air to put some of the telecom towers and things in place to make sure that we have a 5G capability, and we're all ready for that, and ultimately beat China to the punch. And that's an uphill climb all the way, to beat out China. They've committed themselves to doing that. And we're seeing some movement away from our aggressive actions. So I'm delighted to work with my Democrat colleague from New York to find ways that we can develop workers prepared to do the broadband, do the tower maintenance, etc., and be prepared for the coming world. Representative Bobby Rush. Some of you older people in the room remember Bobby Rush was one of the Chicago 7, Black Panther. He's been my colleague, and he's a good friend of mine. I grew up in the district he represents now, right in the south side of Chicago. And so Bobby and I agreed on very few things politically, but we do agree on certain things, and we just introduced last week the Protect Kids Act, a bill that works in developing child online safety and protection, upgrading the COPPA Act, which has been in place for a number of years but needs to be upgraded with the technology we have today in communications. We're all concerned about our kids and grandkids, what goes in front of them. And with the pandemic, we've had more and more people, just constantly, kids on the screen. And the challenges have been made more transparent. And so we're working on that. U.S. Wireless Leadership Act, Debbie Dingell and I have worked on this bill. This will be the second time, moving to counteract what Russia and China have done with cybersecurity challenges. If Molly had been here to talk about all that goes in just the DTE daily, the thousands of attacks that come from outside trying to get into their network, their scheme of things. And almost every business is like this, let alone government, and we have to take great concern there. I've led the bipartisan rollout of rural broadband initiatives. I think all of those witnesses that have come in front of our Energy and Commerce panel have grown rather sick of me talking about the need for rural broadband. I live rural. I was tired of Comcast and others coming and saying, well, Congressman, we'd love to get the last 3 miles to your house to hook you up, but you have to have more people living near you. Well, my immediate response was, nobody else wants to live near me. But I don't want I live in the country because I like the country. And I think because of ultimately doing away, 2.5 years ago, doing away with net neutrality, nice sounding thing, all it was government control of the internet. And it squashed the development in broadband. People said, you know, I'd like to expand broadband, I'd like to invest more money in it, but if the government is going to be the controller of it, I don't think I can make it. I don't think the payout will come. Well, thankfully, we did away with net neutrality, told the truth about what it was, and put it back to, with soft touch from government regulation and disallowance of certain key things. We were able to open it up again, and we saw broadband capabilities to the point that, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't have survived through this pandemic doing all of the virtual meetings that I had to do, including committee meetings, from my home office, sitting just off of Teachout Road, up on the second floor, constantly looking at that screen if I didn't have broadband. A week and a half before the pandemic shut down, we were hooked up. The installer said, I have to tell you, Mr. Wahlberg, that had we not scheduled this for this week, I couldn't have brought it next week to your house. I didn't know how much I would love that broadband capability. That little Wi-Fi that I had for so long, so expensive, I couldn't use it. Otherwise, my wife couldn't use it for grandkids and shopping online. So I wasn't allowed to touch it. But now with broadband, it can both be on. And it's giving me a perfect illustration of why rural areas need to be able to hook up to the internet in any way possible, including in their tractors or combines, out in the field, doing what agriculture does, what small businesses do, now being sent home and realizing that there are some jobs you can work other than in the office itself. And to be able to have the capabilities now with expansion, we want to continue that. Beyond that, let me tell you a little bit, and then we want to open up for questions. And Dustin, you won't tell Michael that I put these things over there. I wish you could come to Washington, and I'm glad you can't, for many reasons. But I wish you could come just quickly to see what Washington, D.C. is now. I'm normally a pretty optimistic guy, but I've been extremely sad since January 6th. Not simply because of a crazy 1,000 people who decided they were going to invade the Capitol. Most of them did nothing except gawk at the beautiful Capitol. Look, Ma, this is the rotunda. I'm not joking. I saw some of it. It was relatively few people that led that activity and planned it and forced Congress, both the House and the Senate, to flee the chambers, to be hustled out of the bunkers, and ultimately try to stop what we were doing constitutionally. Now, I voted on 2 states to object to the electors. And I won't spend time explaining to you why I believe I was right in doing that. I don't believe Michigan was one of those states where Trump won. I think President Trump lost in Michigan. I'm not so sure about Pennsylvania or Arizona or Georgia. But we were doing something that was constitutionally put in place that I saw the Democrats do 4 years prior in objecting to Donald Trump's election. The same way, same method. But that event, that incursion, that I wouldn't call it insurrection, I'd call it a riot in the Capitol, changed everything. And so now you'll see an 8-foot fence around the entire Capitol complex. That's not simply the Capitol building itself, but also all of our office buildings, House and Senate, also the Library of Congress buildings, plural, and the Supreme Court. When I drive from the airport tomorrow morning, back to the Capitol, back to my office, I'll drive through Checkpoint Charlie, as it were, and then go into a secure location underneath my office building in front of my car. When I go on the floor of the House, as never before in the history of the United States, members of Congress now go through metal detectors. As Nancy Pelosi has indicated, there's fear from some of her Democrat colleagues that Republicans will bring a gun on the floor and shoot them. I promise you that won't take place. But that's the type of stuff that's taken. And so when I look out of my window, in the Rayburn House Office building directly at the dome, I see this 8-foot razor wire top fence surrounding the Capitol and no human beings on the Capitol grounds except police and National Guard. That's the people's house. That's how it ought to be. I long for the day when we get back to that. We see school kids out there, we see families taking vacations, we see special interest groups, PACs, associations coming, meeting with us in our office, which are now ghost towns, with no noise in the offices. All of that is what's taken place. But even more importantly, as I sat there at the inauguration with just really a handful of people there, and I heard our president talk about we're going to bring unification to this country and promote unity and bipartisanship. In the last 6 weeks or so since he took that oath, there's literally been no bipartisanship. Bill after bill has been rammed down in front of us. Those bills have impact. And I just jotted those down so I remember to tell you about them. I can find where I wrote it down on all these pieces of paper. H.R. 8, which we passed last week, H.R. 1446, 2 bills dealing with background checks for purchase of guns. First comment I had from the mayor of Adrian this morning when we sat down to talk, she said, my dad wanted to say hi to you, but he wanted me to give you a request. I said, what's that? Get me more ammunition. Many people who don't understand Americans' belief in the Second Amendment don't get that. But there's a concern out there right now that law-abiding gun owners are going to lose their ability to carry on in a legal, law-abiding way what they do for sporting, for hunting, for target shooting, and for protecting their homes. This bill, these 2 bills passed last week, will do one and only one thing: restrict law-abiding citizens from carrying out their Second Amendment liberties. It will do nothing to stop the violent criminal. It would done nothing to stop Dylan Roof, who perpetrated that Charleston crime at the church, who's now serving time in prison. He got his gun after going through a background check that the FBI didn't bother to check. The law was there. And he would have been found out had they done the 3-day check. And easily, as they do with me or any other person who buys a gun, they could have caught the fact that Dylan Roof should not have been allowed to purchase that gun under the present system. This goes further, restricts still further, even for senior citizens, just because of an age that you may not be able to get resources given to you by the Second Amendment. I give that illustration first, because not only was it last week that we did this, but it shows how deep we're going into perception right now. And if the American people don't stop and think through what's being offered, they'll be sold a bill of goods they'll live to regret. Prior to that, we had passed the H.R. 1 bill that was a federal, I call it the federal election takeover, which takes control of the elections in this country on the state level, not simply federal elections, but mandates things like instant registration and voting, whether states have approved it or not. Michigan has. Mandates that anyone and everyone can vote by absentee ballot. It mandates early voting. for everyone. It mandates that everyone who comes to the state and applies for a driver's license will automatically be registered to vote. It mandates that you can have ballot harvesting like California, where people can go out and if you haven't voted yet, they can say, well, you still can vote. Here's the ballot application, here's the ballot, and I'll pick it up for you. And go turn it in. And you can pay people to do that, which gives an incentive to bring back as many ballots as you possibly can. All of that to say, the Constitution doesn't allow that. The Constitution, in Article 1, U.S. Constitution, gives the authority to the state and the state legislators. Our state legislators have that authority, and they alone. That's a problem. When Joe Babe, I can call you Joe Babe, can I? You call me Babe all the time. But he doesn't have the authority of the Constitution of the U.S. government, U.S. Constitution, and the state Constitution give him. We've got a fur peace from being a country that promotes freedom, and federalism that says the power flows from the states to the federal government, not the other way around, in almost every case. Anyway, that bill was passed, not in a unified, bipartisan fashion. It was a straight partisan fashion. And that, hopefully the Senate can stop it. The PRO Act was passed a week before that. PRO Act, which is basically, and I've dealt with this now for 4 straight years on the Education and Labor Committee, is a direct giveaway to labor unions. No state will be able to be a right-to-work state. Michigan is a right-to-work state. The people passed that. I still have people coming up to me in Washington saying, do I remember correctly, Congressman, Michigan is a right-to-work state? I said, yeah, you're kidding. I heard that, but it's hard to believe. Michigan, auto industry, you're a right-to-work state? Yeah. And we've seen auto workers in Monroe County decide that their choice to be a union member is valid, or their choice for a reason not to be a union member is valid. But their choice, they see, they want that responsibility and opportunity. This would do away with things like that. It would mandate card check be allowed. It would reduce the time for the employer to know about an organized effort to unionize either part of their business or their whole business, or even a few people at a specific part of their business. And have an opportunity to develop a plan to say, let's think about the other side as well. All of that passed in this PRO Act. Again, total partisan passage of that bill. Hopefully, Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema will hold that back, or else that will be law, the law of the land, regardless of what Michigan's residents and legislatures have said. The final bill I'll bring you to, of course, is the COVID relief bill. It's categorized as the Save America Act, COVID relief, and in fact it ended up not being either. It ended up being an almost $2 trillion boondoggle with 9%. That means 91% wasn't for COVID health care relief. Only 9% was. Less than 50% of that $2 trillion almost dollars can be used this year. The rest is to be used 2022 and beyond. I want COVID done before 2022. So why are we putting this money for 2022 and beyond? Economists are already saying that our economy is rebounding unbelievably. And by the middle of this year, it'll be a 15-year high. And we put a $2 trillion bill through. For school reopening, the dollars that are put, even though we have extensive billions of dollars still available for school reopening, some being controlled still by our government and not out to school districts. What was put in this bill, over $130 billion, only 5% of that can be used this year. The rest is 22 and beyond. And then we can talk about, for those of you who are pro-life, funding of Planned Parenthood is in that piece of legislation. The paying of health care for illegal immigrants is in that legislation. And I could go on and on. But I think you get the picture of the concern that we had. A lot of those issues based upon science and fact, Republicans could have supported. I could have supported the expansion or the continuation of PPP. Much more targeted to meet the businesses who really still have the needs, who couldn't do it in the first go-around or the second go-around. We could have done that. I certainly could have put more money toward education. To a degree, to make sure that it was used what they had already. We could have put more money towards science and vaccines. But all the breadth that was in there made it impossible to support that. And again, all the Republicans and one Democrat had to vote against that bill. So we'll see how it rolls out. But when you look at the fact that the indebtedness of this country continues to climb, with no care really being given toward it, very little talk about it, and all of us are going to have to pay for those giveaways at some point in time. And businesses will be hard pressed to deal with those. It's time we start thinking more seriously. Questions? Comments?
In the big spending bill, I was just reading some of the places the money was going, and there's actually a very tiny percentage of that that's going to small businesses, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what it's supposed to be about?
Yeah, compared to a $1.9 trillion price tag, small businesses, and it's more targeted than it once was. But it's minuscule. Second, I'm glad you pointed it out, we also continued till September the unemployment insurance addition. And I don't know how many of you had to deal with getting some people back to work who honestly say I can make more by staying unemployed. That's a perverse incentive that is hurting their future as well as the business's future. So you know that better than I do. I hear that all over. The millions of jobs right now that are available and ready for somebody to fill them. Just heard yesterday, I think it's something like 10 million jobs across the United States, I think a little more than that are going wanting for somebody to fill it. Some of that reason is because, yeah, I can get that $300 a week check on top of what I get for unemployment. When I take on my transportation, my child care needs, it serves me well to stay home. That's not good for our future. So those disincentives are there as well. Any other question? Or did I wear you down? Well, thank you for the work you do. Thanks for keeping up. Your government officials, thanks for staying close to your people. I know you do because you can't get away from them on this level. They can find you. I'm going to complain tomorrow and fly away a little bit, but America's too great a country to give up on it. But we've got a battle right now, and it's not just a pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate the update. I'm sure he's got a minute if anybody's got any quick questions for him. But we got a couple minutes here. He got us back on track, so we were lagging a little bit behind. I appreciate that. But
Somebody mark that down.
yeah. Dustin, put that on social media. Back on track. But no, just one last thanks to our sponsors, DTE, First Merchants Bank, Allen Chevrolet, Mannequin Smith Group. Appreciate the support and everybody being here, being willing to come out as the congressman said. We excited to see this. Like I said, we've got a lot of other events coming up. They're going to be similar to this. Kind of spread the word. You got to get your registrations in earlier. You won't be in the room, and otherwise you'll be watching us through the camera. But again, we appreciate the time, and just one last round of applause for U.S. Congress. that's our close, and hopefully everybody grabs an extra wrap on the way out, and, dessert, they look pretty good over there, so. Thanks again, and see everybody next time. Thank you.